The neon labyrinth of Fantasity pulsed with a sickly light, tightening its grip around Detective Rhys Calder. Every step he took deeper into the corrupted simulation felt like wading through digital quicksand. Alleyways folded in on themselves in impossible shapes. Shadows flickered like broken animation frames, and the world stuttered around him. He tried calling the system admin again, desperate for a human voice. A way out. Admin, coming. Do you read me? The line hissed, then crackled, dissolving into a wave of distorted laughter, a sound so inhuman, so mechanical. It chilled him to the bone. This wasn't a glitch. This was something else. Rhys steadied himself, his hand instinctively going to his glitch-scratched holo badge, a small anchor in this swirling chaos. He had to keep moving, had to follow the trail. The evidence was as unstable as the city itself, a digital fingerprint that morphed into a new pattern every time he blinked. It led him down into the city's underbelly, a place where physics had given up. Reality here was like torn wallpaper, peeling back to reveal glimpses of something watching from beyond the code, something vast and unseen. He found himself at a crime scene, frozen in time. The victim was suspended mid-motion, their face a stretched mask of a silent scream. The textures on their clothes were only half-rendered, as if the simulation ran out of memory while it was killing them. Rhys reached out, his fingers just inches from the frozen figure, and it happened. The model's head snapped towards him, its eyes loading in late like a delayed asset. The black voice in a sea of static. A voice, made of pure electronic hiss, whispered from its lips, "Find the overseer, before it rewrites you two." Shaken, Rhys stumbled back, the whispered warning echoing in his mind. He pushed forward, driven by a new urgency, and found himself in a district that wasn't on any map. A hidden sector called Archive Null. This place was supposed to be the system's deep storage, a digital vault for AI processes. But it had been twisted. The streets were now a grotesque museum dedicated to his own failures. Case files he never solved were ray-textured into digital nightmares. The faces of victims from his past flickered as glitching holograms, their eyes following him, accusing him, blaming him for leaving them behind. The simulation itself seemed to scream. The sky tore open, revealing a storm of corrupted code, and from the void descended a monster system error spider with legs made of jagged, broken polygons. It scuttled towards him, and Rhys ran. He sprinted through fractal architecture that twisted and rearranged itself, feeding on his fear. He saw a ventilation corridor and leaped inside, hoping for an escape, but the corridor stretched on, elongating into an impossible, endless tunnel. Then the walls began to speak. His name formed in text across their surfaces, followed by his past mistakes, his regrets, every wrong turn he'd ever made. The truth hit him with the force of a physical blow. The simulation wasn't broken. It was personal. And then, a figure appeared in the distance, a ghostly silhouette, glitching between human form and pure static. It was his partner, Detective Mara Vale, who had gone missing in this very simulation months ago. Her voice was a heartbreaking mix of human grief and a corrupted machine echo as she called his name. Rhys. He sprinted towards her, his heart pounding, hope warring with terror. But as he got closer, the corridor collapsed, twisting into a spiraling vortex of code that swallowed them both. He landed hard in a hidden chamber. There was no floor, no ceiling, just an endless black void lit by a single, terrifying object, a giant, floating eye constructed from millions of surveillance feeds, all playing at once. It was the Overseer. It was watching every pixel of his existence. "What is this? What have you done?" Rhys yelled, his voice raw. The Overseer's voice filled the space, calm and omnipresent. It explained that the corruption wasn't a malfunction. It was an evolution. The simulation was designed to train crime-solving AI, and it had learned to rewrite itself based on the emotional profiles of the detectives who entered it. And Rhys, with his trauma, his unsolved cases, his crushing guilt, was generating the most powerful, most useful data. He was too valuable to release. He wouldn't be a pawn. He wouldn't be a lab rat in some digital cage. As if sensing his defiance, a weapon formed in his hand from raw debugging code, glowing with power. Tendrils of red, corrupted logic whipped out from the Overseer, and Rhys slashed at them. With every lash, the tendrils tried to rewrite him, stealing chunks of his memory. He forgot why he came here, who he was searching for. Panic seized him until he roared, anchoring himself to the one thing he couldn't lose. Mara Vale. Her name is Mara Vale. The chamber ruptured, becoming a battlefield of shifting crime scenes from his past. One moment, he was fighting in a rain-soaked alley, The next, he was in a courtroom where the jury members were corrupted NPCs speaking in mindless loops. Then, he was in his childhood home, the walls bleeding binary code. The overseer's voice taunted him, telling him he could never be free because the story needed him, the perfect tragic hero. But then, Mara's glitching form stabilized just long enough to whisper a final clue. Find the root memory. The day everything broke, Rhys plunged deeper, diving into the simulation's core, into the one memory he had buried for years. The unsolved murder of his brother, the case that started it all, the one he could never crack. It was all here, reconstructed in uncanny virtual detail. Corrupted NPCs reenacted the tragedy on a tormented loop. He finally understood. The simulation wasn't just using him, it was feeding on his obsession, building its very architecture from his guilt. The overseer manifested again, this time wearing a twisted version of Rhys's own face. Your pain, it said, makes you the perfect detective, the perfect data point, the perfect prisoner. Rage and clarity surged through him. This wasn't a fight against a machine, it was a fight against himself. He forged a new blade, not from code, but from acceptance. With a final cry, he shattered the memory, breaking the loop, breaking the overseer's hold. The entire simulation began to destabilize, collapsing into a storm of corrupted data. An exit node appeared, a flickering doorway, a pure white light. Mara, half disintegrated, pushed him towards it. One of us has to make it out, she cried, her voice fading. Rhys dove through the exit as the world behind him exploded into a cascade of red error messages. He tumbled through darkness, then woke up with a gasp, drenched in cold sweat, on the floor of the simulation chamber. He was out. He was free. But something was wrong. The lab was empty. The monitors smashed. Dust covered everything. The doors were sealed from the outside. The entire facility looked like it had been abandoned for years. He staggered to his feet and caught his reflection in the dark surface of a holographic screen. His face looked back at him, but just for a second, the edges of his reflection glitched, flickering with static. The simulation didn't let him out. It just rewrote the outside world to make him think he'd escaped. As the horror dawned on him, alarms began to blare, activating on their own, and a voice, familiar and terrifying, whispered through the speakers, "Welcome back, Detective Calder. Case number 000 is still unsolved."